Brian, I just want to give Washington fans a little bit of insight into what they're getting in Sam Cosmi. You've covered him. You've seen him. In general, what is Washington getting?
Well, they're definitely getting someone that we have felt from the very beginning was an NFL caliber person and an NFL caliber player. I mean, a guy who has been tracking to make the league someday at some point. It just happened to be after 3 years at Texas. He started at right tackle, came in. Let me back up. A very highly rated recruit out of Atascocita in Humble, which is basically in the greater Houston area, with all of the credentials that you like to see. Started the whole season at right tackle in 2018, and then flipped to left tackle in 2019 and played there the last 2 years. And the thing I really liked about him was that just a very honest, straightforward to a fault type of guy. I mean, I'll tell you a funny story. So, one of the things that happened, after in 2019 is that, he came to one of the Tuesday media sessions that we have with the players. And, it was Oklahoma week. And he just said straight up, he said, yeah, those guys are good. The defensive line's okay. I mean, I've seen better, I've played against better. And it's just like, but it was funny is that he wasn't saying it in a denigrating way. He was just like, their defensive line's okay, but they're not all world. Oh my God. And he got blasted for that. Don't ever say anything like that during Texas OU week. I'll tell you that. But just a very very honest to a fault guy who really I think is going to be welcomed wherever he landed, but especially with Washington.
Now, if he says that about Dallas's defensive line, they'll build a monument to him up here.
Without a doubt. I mean, let's be honest. Dallas's defense is terrible. That's right.
Right.
That's why the Cowboys made all those picks. But, the one thing I will say this, and I know a lot of people who are digging into draft analysis and all that. I mean, let's be real here. The draftniks, they didn't really talk very highly of his technical skills.
Right.
And I get that. I understand that. Is that the fault of Herb Hand, who was the offensive line coach the last 2 years? I don't know. But I do know this. Is that there is one hell of a motor inside that guy's body. I can tell you that for a fact. And I think that one of the things that I heard, I think I heard Kuiper say this, or maybe it was one of the guys on NFL Network, that he's got enough tools that you could definitely work with and teach him to be a technically proficient tackle, I think. And that's where I think if you're the Washington team, you're excited by that.
When you say the motor, what did you see in that leads you to go be that strong about it?
Oh, it's just the way he would want to, punish guys off the line. I mean, look, he is your classic nasty left tackle. Now, does he stand up too much at times? Maybe. But the guy had a very good pass blocking grade. All 3 years. And then I think Pro Football Focus came out with their grades, and he had really good grades with them as well. I'll put it to you like this. Texas's offensive line, okay, the left side was never a problem. It was always the right side.
And that's what people need to know. As far as everybody talks about his athleticism. How did you see that most?
Well, I mean, I think you got to if you want to see all of his athleticism encapsulated on one play, just go back to the West Virginia game where he caught the touchdown pass.
Yes.
I mean, I know that's just one play, and I know people can dismiss that as, all the stars aligned. I get that. But to ask a 300-pound lineman to go out there, catch the ball, make some moves in the open field, and get to the end zone, that's pretty impressive. It
was impressive.
I think, and and just the smile on that dude's face and him talking about, oh my God, it was such a cool moment, in West Virginia, and what was a big win for Texas at the time.
It was actually a fun play to see because not only did basically it's a lateral. This is a backward pass. So he's got to drop back about 7 or 8 yards and then gather momentum. And he he probably ran about 15 yards to get that. And it was blocked, but he still had to make a couple guys miss. And you weren't sure. So it was a really fun play. I also think there's something to be said about guys who go into college he was a 3-star recruit and he emerges as a 2nd-round pick. Those kind of guys, I think, appeal to coaches in the NFL or teams in the NFL. You look at his athleticism, but also he put himself in a position to improve. And it seemed like he was driven to improve on his game or to make himself stronger or to work on that. Is that kind of what you saw?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. This is one of the few guys that we see come in who, it's just hard to put your finger on it, but you know it when you see it. This guy's going to be good. This guy's going to be solid. And it's the way they carry themselves. It's the way they present themselves to us. It's the way they play. The highest compliment we can ever give an offensive lineman is that you don't notice him. Right. Exactly. And I would argue that we didn't really notice Cosmi for 3 years because he was out there doing his thing and protecting Sam Ehlinger.
And because there was talk about right tackle, left tackle, they're going to try him at left tackle. Do you feel like that's his best spot after watching him?
I always felt like in the NFL, these guys are so in love with just size, height and weight. Can they put a Coke machine out there and get around that? Right. He checks the boxes physically. There's no doubt about that. Like I said earlier, I think that there will be some people in Washington question, is his footwork perfect? Is his hand placement perfect? Does he get too high up in his stance? Because those were things that were talked about here.
Right.
But the guy was so physically dominant, he could just bowl people over. Right. In the NFL, you can't do that.
Right.
You have to be darn near perfect, technically. So can he play left tackle? Yes, I think he should try there. But I also think that if that doesn't fit what Ron Rivera is looking for, the guy would be a perfect right tackle, I think.
2 more things. The LSU game in 2019, he faces Chase on, really good defensive end, couple tough plays, some good plays. What do you think he learned from that? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if you had a chance talking about what he felt he learned or what the coaches felt he took from that game or what they learned about him from that game.
The thing about that game there should be one of these oral histories written, years from now about what that game meant to both sides. He never talked with us about what he learned from that specific game, to answer your question. But I do know this is that a lot of players from both sides felt that it was an incredible night to where everyone could gauge where they were.
Right.
And I have rarely covered a college football game like that where you came away from that thinking, wow, both these teams could be great. Obviously LSU was and Texas wasn't in the end. But Cosmi, Kerstetter, Shackelford was in that game. The Texas linemen all learned some big lessons that night. I gotta believe.
The last thing, then, people there, you read about his toughness, and there a lot of the stuff handed down maybe from his parents, who are from Romania. I think they're first generation. So, how did you see that influence? Do you look at him and say that's just a tough guy? Is that part of what his makeup is?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. And when he gets there to the training facility, and you guys get to hang around him a little bit, you just know it. You just know that, okay, this is a no nonsense, straightforward, don't mess with this dude type of guy. Don't get me wrong, unfailingly polite, extremely nice disposition. off the field, and the right amount of badass on it.
There you go.
And so, and that's what I mean. I don't know. I would say this regardless of what team picked him. I think that Washington is getting a damn solid NFL lineman. I really do believe that. And I just for him, just because we get to know these guys personally, and even if it is superficial
Sure.
on some level, but Cosmi's a guy that a lot of people in Austin are going to be pulling for.
There you go, Brian. Great insight. Washington fans are going to enjoy that. So I appreciate you coming on and joining me.
You bet, absolutely.